Men, your kid may be on the spectrum and you're not quite sure what to do. If you're a father like me and have questions, maybe you're a puzzled dad too. Welcome to the Puzzled Dads Podcast, where we're cracking the code of autism, one piece at a time. Welcome to the Puzzled Dads Podcast. I'm your host, Jamar Whitehurst, and thank you for coming back. You know how we get this thing started. We always start off with the opening prayer. So let's start there. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for your blessings. We thank you for your anointing. We thank you how you continue to cover and watch over us. We pray over this discussion. We pray over this conversation, God, that we're able to help somebody that hears our stories, that hears our voice, Lord. I pray over my guests, be with him and be with his family, bless his family, and bless all those who will check this out either on YouTube or on the podcast. But we thank you for this day. In your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Welcome to the Puzzle Dads Podcast. Thank you again for coming back. Remember, you can reach out to us at puzzledads@gmail.com. Send us an email. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any questions, just let us know. You can also reach us on Facebook, Instagram with the handle Puzzle Dads, or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Well, as always, we have a definition or a word of the day. Today's word of the day is journey. All right, so what does journey mean? Something suggesting travel or passage from one place to another. I'm adding another one to this, a life journey. A life journey is a metaphor for the progression of a person's life, emphasizing that it's a continuous process of learning and self-discovery rather than a fixed destination. So the title of today's episode is Never Ending Journey, because as we know as parents with children with autism, this journey continues. Our disclaimer, I am not an expert on autism, but I am an expert on my son. And these experiences that we're sharing may not be your exact experience, but they may be a shared or similar that you can draw from. Well, today I have the honor, the pleasure of welcoming one of my frat brothers, one of my friends, true friends, Reginald Jones. What's
Good
going on?
evening.
What's going on?
Good evening, good brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us. This is a conversation that's a long time coming, as we've said before, but I truly appreciate you coming on, being willing to share your story. And let's, talk about, our journey as parents, as dads with children with autism. First one, so people understand our background. We both went to Grambling State University. Reginald played football at the Grambling State University, a heck of a football player. He is my older frat brother. He helped bring me into the fraternity, helped guided me, teach me. So I've leaned on him. But I want you to tell people a little bit more about yourself, a little bit about your family, and so that they get to know who you are.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Reginald Jones. Known to the government, to my fraternity brothers, I'm known as Capo Bone. Jamar and I, we have a common bond with our sons being on the autism spectrum, and it's been a rough journey for me, but hey, I persevered, and we're here now, and we're uplifting each other. And he's, been asking me to jump on here for quite some time, and I had to carve out some time for him, and I'm here to, offer what I've been going through with autism. I'm been married for about 12 years, got 2 boys, 11-year-old Luke, 7-year-old Langston. Langston is my youngest son who's on the autism spectrum, and he's a younger version of me. I see a lot of myself in him, so I know myself. Like I wouldn't call myself an expert, but it's like looking at a miniature version of myself. And but I'm here to help him deal with those, and he's working through those issues.
But
Thanks for helping me out here.
I appreciate it. So if for the people, if you hear us make reference to dog team, dog. As members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, we have different reference points. So, but that's how we know each other. You know, we don't just interact just at a basic level. It's not just a college thing in our fraternity. This is a lifelong thing. So tell us a little bit about Langston. Just tell us about him as a young man. You said he is pretty much your carbon copy. He is your mini me. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Yeah, well, Luke is my older son. He's 11, and God bless us with a second son, Langston. And my mom said when I was younger that I didn't talk until 3 years old, until my little brother was born. So when Langston exhibits similar traits, I didn't pay it any mind. My wife is in education, and she's been a counselor for quite some time. And she brought it to my attention, and I was reluctant to, try to process what she was talking about. Lo and behold, we had him evaluated a couple times, and he qualified for autism, and it's been a life, well, not life changing, but it's been. I thought had it figured out as a parent when I had my first son, Luke, because everything was cool, and I feel like, hey, this parenting thing is a breeze. And when Langston came about, I've learned how to be a parent a second time, two different parents all over again, because what worked for the first son, don't work for the second son because they have so many different capabilities, and that's what's been sometimes difficult, figuring out their personalities, their capabilities, what they're good at, what they need help with, and it's been challenging, but at the same time, we're progressing. We're making progress daily, and he didn't talk for 7 years. The day he turned 7, November 7th, 2024, he started talking, and he's accelerating and learning words and alphabets and everything at a fast rate right now.
So he didn't talk till 7.
7.
What what was your reaction when he started talking? Given it had been 7 years, what was that feeling like for you?
I have faith. I have faith. I know at the end of the day he's gonna have have a normal life. Like that's the end goal for him to be self sufficient. He's super self sufficient right now. He's just super spoiled, and you don't know, kids with autism, when they develop a certain routine, they like to stick to it, and it's hard to break away from that routine. You just can't break away from that routine with a timeout or timeout in the corner or whatnot. You have to let that be a gradual process. You have to train his brain all over again to accept a different routine. Because once they get their mind stuck on a routine, they only change it when they want to change it, if they want to change it. And, sometimes that's a battle with behaviors, whether
Yeah,
they're positive or negative. I've learned so much to be a parent, how to be a parent, because there's no perfect way. There's no perfect parent. And what you do for one generation may not necessarily apply for this generation. So it's been a battle, but a battle that I look forward to. And if I can offer
yeah,
any words of wisdom, I'm here for that while I have time. Because sometimes it's heated over here. Like sometimes we're not in the mood to, jump on platforms like this and and provide dialogue, because it's heated in here. Like it gets heated, and we all have to, keep our composure. Especially, it's weird because the more he gets riled up, the longer he can go, and he can just. You got to do something different. You got to attack him mentally. You got to back off. Like
yeah,
it's like adding lighter fluid to a fire.
yeah.
The more you add the lighter fluid,
Meltdown.
meltdowns, you gotta address those differently. You have to address
Yeah,
it differently. They don't respond to the loud yelling. And like my son, what I've learned about him, he's intuitive, he's emotional. So he can feel that I'm displeased with his behavior without me saying anything, because that's how we communicated for the longest, nonverbal. And nonverbal
yeah,
is a form of speaking. We just didn't we were concerned because he wasn't verbalizing his words like kids should be verbalizing at his age. However, he's
yeah.
It's a slow progress, but it's a fun progress because he loves to
Well,
learn.
I mean, well, I'm definitely glad. Well, obviously, we talked,
Mhm,
over these last years, and I'm glad to one see the progress because I've mentioned it before. Is sometimes we can overlook the little wins because we're looking for that big jump,
mhm,
that big win, that big development milestone, as opposed
right,
to there's little things that happen on the way to keep encouraging us.
right.
I want to go back to something you said about how you at first you were in denial. So just can you speak more to that initial reaction when you got that like official diagnosis that he had autism?
Well, before I, start researching about autism, I was at work talking to some colleagues of mine, and they kind of put two and two together, and I was late to the party, but they didn't ruin the party for me. They were very professional. I appreciate them for doing that, letting me realize it on my own time versus just saying just diagnosing him without you know the official credentials to diagnose someone based on just opinion. And so it starts slowly, you know, uh, seeking in. Hey, maybe, hey, he's not progressing as a child should at his age. So it lay heavy on the back of my brain. But my wife, she was already took the initiative. Already took the initiative, and she was already very assertive to getting everything set up and getting the appointment set up, and we proceeded. It was because you have the perfect layout of how you want to be a parent and parent your children, but when there are other plans that are in the works, you gotta adjust and adapt. You have to adjust and adapt. It was just like how I didn't get into the little sad story about why me. I asked the question, why not? Why not me? I feel like I'm the best person for the job because it's a hard job, but
Yeah.
this wondering like, wow, I feel like I never got checked out, evaluated because if I didn't talk until I was 3 years old, and a lot of his he don't know how to express himself and keep his composure, and that's the training we have him doing right now. Uh, it's
Yeah.
I was just hey, I don't know. They came from the same womb, and I was like, hey, that's the puzzle. Like you expect them to be similar with like attainments, but however, and they do. Luke, Luke is not. We haven't had him tested, but he's not on the spectrum. But their mannerisms, things they watch as you know, certain stages in their development, they watch the same things. But
Yeah. It's I
I don't
mean,
know. I don't know if I answered your question.
no,
Uh,
that was great because sometimes that's the tough thing is trying to figure out what is considered normal mannerisms,
mm,
actions versus what is attributed to autism, right?
mm,
And that's just a part of the journey of learning and kind of looking around. Okay, that's normal as Jamar's going through puberty and he's exhibiting some emotions, right? There are some emotions because he's just a moody teenager, you know, and some of those moods and emotions are may just be exacerbated because he has autism, right? So um, it's definitely a journey trying to figure out what is normal, what are regular milestones versus they have autism. So uh tell me
can
some. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to say, I have two boys, and there's so many different battles going on in this household at four different times. And what I mean by that is Luke he don't have the experience right now to get that dialogue sibling as far as, the verbal interaction. And so we all learning about it on the job. We all learning about it right there on the job training. So like we have to take into consideration how he feel, as a brother, not being able to give that verbal, have that verbal interaction with your younger brother, because we're all learning what he like, what he don't like, what ticks him off, what don't tick him off.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the fabric of the shirt that he don't want on his skin. It's so much, at any
Yep.
given time. But I just wanted to throw that in there because we also have to keep in mind, like Luke has feelings, and we can't just put him on the back burner and just give 100% attention to Langston. But he requires it, he demands it, and sometimes that can be a battle, you know.
So, so one thing I haven't talked about on this podcast is the sibling aspect, right? So, what have you seen with Luke's adjustment, especially over these last 7 years, right? We're at a place now to where he is starting to verbalize, but what have you seen in Luke that you watching his adjustment to this whole thing? Good, bad, just it's just different. What do you feel like his adjustment has been to this whole thing?
He's ahead of his time with that. He's ahead of his time with that because we have to constantly remind him that this is not a normal situation. And
Mhm.
and when his emotions are high, Langston's emotions are high, we got to tell Luke and remind Luke to keep his composure because he doesn't process what's going on the way we process things, and that can be challenging at times. And Luke has learned to identify triggers. He's learned to identify, just he's very observant of Langston, and he knows his routine, he knows his wants, he knows his needs, and he's evolved and adjusted quickly. I'm impressed with him because I didn't experience it. My little brother, we talk and we fight and we fought, and they grapple and do their thing. However, I can't relate to what he's experiencing because I didn't have that. So he's teaching me he's very mature about it, and we're all learning. We're all learning because we all just learned about it. But Luke is very
Yeah,
intelligent with that aspect. Sometimes you have to remind him, like, hey. But sometimes, he's a Sagittarius, so if, I'm big in astrology, but he's a Sagittarius, and sometimes he forgets that it's not just only about him.
yeah,
He reels it back in real fast, but that's kind of difficult, and we always have to be mindful of that. Like he needs that attention, and sometimes my mother-in-law will come pick up the boys and take take them out for a day or so. But sometimes
hmm
we'll let Luke go hang out with her as well, so he can have that time to get his needs met as far as the attention. And then
yeah,
and both of them, they both like it. Like sometimes we do that, just give them some time apart because it gets heated up. They can go at it, but
yeah,
Luke has developed a love for his little brother. He stands up
hmm
for him. We're his advocates until he can advocate for himself. Uh,
yeah,
he's Langston's biggest advocate though. Like he gets 0 to 100 real quick as his advocate because when Langston goes out, he think the world is his, and everybody don't know about autism. They
right,
move and walk to their own beat and to their own step and to their own rhythm, and they have to learn to adjust and coincide with civilization or society. But Langston, he doesn't. When he does get his way, that's when he starts with the behaviors. But you got to just watch out for the trigger points. I would
yeah.
say.
No, I mean, it's just amazing, because when we think of as parents, especially as dads, the weight that comes with parenting a child of autism. I can only imagine the weight on a sibling that young, that and the fact that, like you said, he's ahead of his time of having an awareness of it. You know what I mean? And so that's just kudos one to Luke for just kind of probably growing a little faster than anybody thought,
Mm-hmm.
but also to you all as parents, but just guiding it and guiding him through this ever going process. But I like something else you said about, especially for those who have multiple kids, whether multiple on the spectrum or one is or what have you, is that you still have to give that time to Luke. Like we still have to give him his attention. You know what I mean? And it sounds like you all have developed a strategy that hopefully somebody else can take or somebody else can listen to and help develop their own strategy if they have multiple kids of, giving them their time and just remembering that he's still a kid. He's only 11. He's
Right.
still a child that's growing. So I really love I really love that. What are some other challenges that you have faced or that you've seen as far as being a parent of an autistic child? What are some of the other challenges? We talked about meltdowns a little bit. What are some of the other challenges that you have seen?
Well, before I mention that, I want to put a disclaimer out. I'm not an expert in autism. I'm only an expert. Well, I'm not even an expert. I'm an apprentice, training and learning about autism. So I wouldn't call myself an expert. What I've learned with Langston, to be honest, and I'm only sharing this because this is one of our battles. He's progressing in so many areas, but one area that he's lacking progress in, that he's just being lazy, I guess, spoiled with, is going to the bathroom, doing number one or number two on his own without being instructed to or being mindful of it. And that's one of our concerns. That's one of our battles. It's a work in progress. It's a work in
Yeah.
progress. From what I've read, from what I've researched, that's one of the last stepping stones or obstacles for certain kids with autism. They grasp things differently at different speeds, at different rates. But, he knows what to do and the concept of it. It's about the repetition, getting the repetition in. So that's one of our, something that we're dealing with and working on daily. What else? Just figuring out what's wrong sometimes. He doesn't, one time he had a toothache, and before we realized that he had a toothache and took him to the doctor to get looked at, when he had these meltdowns, we just react without so emotional, and that's his way of communicating that something was wrong. So I felt like the biggest hypocrite or the worst parent ever, because I'm spanking him and whooping him, not really listening, not really identifying and understanding his needs, because other than when he's well and his health is 100%, he's the best child ever. You wouldn't even know he was on the spectrum if we didn't disclose that to you. But
Yeah.
when something's off, he communicates, or he gets our attention in ways that we disagree with, and but that's his way of communicating that something else is wrong. So when
Yeah.
I see behavior like, I immediately start trying to figure out and diagnose, like, this is a due process of elimination before I just go all in and do a spanking or whatnot. And that's the worst thing
Yeah.
you can do for a child with autism, is give them a spanking, because they don't understand what they did wrong or right. It's a communication mix up. It's a it's the signals are not even connecting. So
Yeah.
don't
It's a gap.
I would recommend, like, unless you just got energy to do that, it's gonna be you won't be teaching. It won't be a teaching moment. It won't be a learning
Yeah.
moment for him. With
What
he's so emotional that he he doesn't he can feel when I'm upset with him. He doesn't want me upset with him, so he'll always piece it up himself,
Yeah.
and that's the connection we have. I don't have to always be physical or whatever. He can feel it. He
Yeah.
don't want to upset with it, and so he makes sure we square away every day.
Yeah.
But
Well, that that's the thing about being dad is there's just a certain energy we give off that they see dad's energy and it's like, yeah, I don't want the smoke. I don't want to deal with that. What have been some other things that you've learned about Langston over this process? Like some things that maybe have most impressed you that you've learned about him over these last 7 years?
how well he retains information. I think he almost have a photographic memory. He can see an image. He can read. He can read. He just don't. He doesn't feel comfortable moving his tongue. I think as parents, I think we jumped the gun, my wife and I, to get off subject, back on subject. When he was born, the doctor said his tongue, he was gonna have a list if we didn't get his tongue clipped. And we prematurely, he was what, a couple days in the world. So we prematurely, had that procedure done. And I feel like that's like, if I had any regrets, we should have just waited and let him start talking first with the
Yeah.
list. And then, but I think we jumped the gun that way, and he just doesn't, his tongue works because he can enunciate words sometimes. He
Yeah.
just doesn't feel comfortable doing it 100% of the time, or majority of the time. When we've been communicating non-verbally, he gets his point across. It's almost like, also, I don't know if I know I didn't mention this, but he know how to sign. So he you know, if we use sign language, the little that we know, he can understand it and give it back to us. So he can communicate with us through sign. Some of his teachers at school communicated through him with sign, and we didn't teach it here because we don't know it. And we was wondering, like, how does he understand sign language?
Yeah.
So I'm try to learn sign language now because he can communicate that way.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that I mean that's amazing in and of itself, right? Because when you hear some stories about children who are nonverbal, they're just nonverbal and there's no other way to communicate. But to hear that, you know, one Langston is using his words now, but the fact that he's able to sign is a big communication for him to be able to use like, okay, we don't know what you're saying, and then we start signing it. Okay, then it just kind of helps to leading
right,
to that. So no,
right.
that's amazing to hear. And to your point, it goes to, hit how smart he is, right? And sometimes people don't realize they see the physical traits, they see the physical attributes of children with autism, but until they get to know that child, they don't always know how smart that child really is.
Mm,
Uh, like for us, when we went to open house with Jamar some weeks ago, and his math teacher said, "Yeah, he's doing stuff that the other kids in the class aren't doing in math, right?"
mm,
And like he's performing at a level that a lot of kids plateau at. You know what I mean? And so, you know, it, if we give them a chance, they're smarter than folks realize. What so you mentioned how, their grandmother will come, they'll spend time with her.
mhm.
What has that adjustment been for the grandparents, right?
Hard.
What
It's been hard.
talk a little bit, and you don't have to go if you don't want to put too much out there as far as their but just in general.
What's hard is I'm sorry to cut you off. I just you brought it up. It's hard for her because she's grandmother to him. So grandmothers give kids whatever they want as often as they want it. You know,
Mhm.
that's what grandmothers do. They spoil them. But sometimes when he have his temper tantrums and his meltdowns and whatnot, and just she's new to it as well. We all just learned about it and learn how and adjusted to it and learning to adapt to it. But when he has his meltdowns and temper tantrums, he's 7 years old, but he's big. He's a big boy. People they beat him like, oh, he's an NFL player, but we're not even thinking that far yet. Even though he has the attributes, but he can bully people who he can push over. So she
Right.
doesn't give him the energy. She doesn't have the energy to give him that he needs because she's a passive grandmother, not in a negative manner. She just very, very loving, and sometimes he'll take advantage of it and try to push her, and that's a no go. And he throws objects, and he's thrown a couple batteries at her big 75-inch TV. We've had to replace two TVs just in the matter of instance, just because he has a tantrum.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't, she's grandmama, so she doesn't give him that. She doesn't discipline like that because first he's stronger than she is, and she's afraid that she might fall or he might push her. So she has to be careful about that, and it takes a firm, stern spirit to interact and deal with Langston because when he's frustrated, he doesn't know how to articulate what he wants. We don't know
Yeah.
how to read his mind, and so that's the disconnect of what he actually wants. And sometimes it's so simple as hanging outside for a few more minutes, or wearing a different color shirt, or it's simple things. But that's one of our concerns because as long as he's behaving himself, she can keep him, but we don't want him over there having tantrums and be the cause of her health or pushing her down, anything like that. We don't want him being abusive towards her at all because he kind of takes advantage of people who don't exhibit a firmness or aggressive behavior.
Yeah.
I think one of his gifts is he can read people. We had a little problem situation at school last year. The first fall semester, it was horrible. He can feel if people don't really have don't want to deal with him. He can feel that people feel negative about it. He can feel that. Even though he can't express it, he can feel it. And his teacher just didn't want to really have anything to do with him. And he felt it. And so he just didn't listen to anything that she said. Then
Yeah.
we had his teacher change. The teacher just opened her heart and arms and just loved on him. And he tested out. He was the youngest kid in that class. And he passed all his tests. That being said, he was the class favorite. And if you show love, you'll get love. If
Yeah.
you show anything other than that, he's gonna give you that energy, and that's what's strange with me. Like he know how to trade that energy. If you upon meeting you, he may come up and give you dap, or he may not, and
Yeah.
he's read your energy, and that doesn't say he don't want to deal with you. Just give him time. He's
Yeah.
very observant. He's taking everything. He's reading you. And that's one of the things that it's like he can stare at you and read you. And kids with autism don't like making eye contact, but Langston can eyeball and get it out you. So I can talk about this all night because it's
I know. Yeah, I know. It's I mean, it's amazing, like you said, how they can just feel the energy in the room, and they can feel when essentially, if somebody is scared to quote unquote discipline them or be firm with them, right? I would tell Jamar's coaches, coach him like you coaching the other guys, right? If it's, oh, I'm gonna just let him do his thing, then yeah, he's not gonna be receptive. But if you coach him like, and you're firm with them, and I've had to tell some of his teachers that you
yeah.
have to be firm with them. Don't just, well, don't, we don't do that at home. So don't do it in these environments. But yeah, I think just keep encouraging, his grandmother, in that, and just
Yeah, she's
because
better.
it okay. Cause it's I know, like, watching my in-laws just kinda, cause they watch Jamar a lot, and it's been a journey for them trying to understand him, but then also telling them that what you see at 5, 6, 7 is different at 9, 10, 11, is different at 13. As they get older, there are different phases that this used to work. Yeah, it used to
Yeah.
work 2 years ago. It doesn't work now. And
Yeah.
so, and I think as he gets older as well, he'll start to kind of understand that,
Mhm.
and like Jamar's understanding, you are bigger than your grandmother. You're bigger than, can't, even if you get upset, you can't react a certain way because you're too big for that. Right. So give us one of the best stories about Langston, like one of your favorite stories, whether, like, you told us about, when he started speaking, but just give us one of the best stories that gives you the most joy.
Man, yeah, you put me on the spot because I
And you
have
can
so
give me,
many, but I can't bring one that's a real good one. Just I can say his
so what,
ability.
so while you're thinking, I'm gonna give you time. I'm gonna give you time, my friend, to think about it. I give you one that I have, right? So a few years ago, Jamar played YMCA soccer, and they were in the semifinal game. And you know, Jamar's fun loving, and he's out there playing. But the team they were playing had this kid that was the biggest one on the field out there. Jamar's about the only one that was the same height as him. Well, this kid was kind of thick and throwing his weight around, knocking Jamar's teammates down. So something switched in Jamar, and he started matching up with this kid. So the kid tried to push Jamar, and Jamar, he wouldn't budge. He pushed, and so he battled that kid the rest of the game and shut him down the rest of the game. And his team ended up winning the game. The next game, they won the championship. But that's one of my favorite, because as a dad, it's like, yeah, don't let nobody push you around. Don't, and he kind of handled the kid, and the kid didn't even shake his hand at the end of the game. And he was so
Mm.
upset, but that's one of my favorite stories. So you go ahead.
Well, they not positive like yours, but he had a situation at camp. Some kid was like, trying to bully him, and he really didn't pay it no mind. And then we got a letter, or the teacher wrote on his conduct letter that he slapped the kid in class, but it was the same kid that he was having that he was had interactions with in camp, the fact that he can retain or remember, you know, somebody doing him wrong or somebody not being mean to him. He's very agile he's gonna be an athlete. We just working on him to follow the instructions. Uh,
Mhm.
he, I don't know. My mind just went blank as far as just when he started talking. He turned 7, November the 7th, and
Yep.
that day he started enunciating and trying to enunciate words that he can spell. That's what we were amazed at because we bought him some letters and he can spell out words that he see on TV. Uh, his thirst for learning is what's amazing. What I like about it, his teacher, the one that he had last year in the spring, uh, she sent us a video. He's singing and dancing with her. Well, not singing, but just dancing with her. And she
Yeah.
gets the most out of it, and she just, you mention her name, he lights up like it's Christmas. I'll come back and give you a story in a minute. My brain just, had a brain fart.
No worries. It's all good. I mean, that's good. The fact that he has a teacher that is willing to see that much in him
That was
is,
last year. That was last year.
well, but still, having that teacher and you hope for that don't get it trust me, you don't get it every year, but you
Yeah.
hope that they have at least one that sees them for who they are and not just another special needs kid.
Mhm.
What are some things that you've learned about yourself that you didn't realize through this journey?
That I can, I'm a little bit harder than I thought. Uh, that I'm probably on the spectrum, uh, unofficially,
Mhm.
because we have a lot of. I can see a lot of the way he act. I can see a lot of that in my the way I act.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just 7 years old. What was the question again?
What have you learned about yourself through this journey? Like, what
I'm
are some
still
things you
learning. I'm still learning. Sometimes I don't know, man. We have sometimes some heated moments over here, and I just disconnect from the outside world. I
Mhm.
disconnect from my organization because I just have to wind down because it gets real emotional, and I don't want to do what I want to do.
Mm.
We don't want to react. We don't want to be beating our child. What I've learned that works. Very spiritual people. I just started playing gospel, and it cools his demeanor. It cools his spirit immediately. I've learned how to disengage. I've learned how to disengage. He'll do certain things that he know we don't like, and he know the consequences behind those actions that he's doing that we don't. We told him don't do, and he's expecting a certain punishment, and I don't give him the punishment that he is looking forward to. So I have to. It's chess. It's like a chess mind game.
Yeah.
He'll do certain things and stick his hand out, and I hit it if it's something that I told him not to do. But some majority of the time I don't hit it. So he's confused then, like, okay, but it's a chess match with him. He's very observant. He watch. I have to be mindful of my actions because he can mimic my actions.
Mhm.
Uh, what else? He's very frisky with females. He get this from his mom, I guess. No, I'm just joking. Uh, But he likes people with high energy because if you give him high energy, he loves that. And we have a neighbor, she gives him high energy and he loves to rub on her legs, but she can have interaction with him and he can understand it. And he likes looking forward to hanging out with her.
Yeah.
Uh, it's been a work in progress. It's a daily progress, man. It's a daily progress. Uh, it's a daily progress.
But what people may not know about you that I know about you is you're somebody with a lot of silent strength, right?
Mhm.
And you have a lot of patience and restraint. Do you feel like that has even grown even more with having Langston?
Most definitely. Up until spring 2000, I pledged in this illustrious fraternity. I thought it was hard. But when the whole process, we got Langston evaluated when he was 4. He's 7 now. So when we got him evaluated, diagnosed, or whatnot. It's been a hard process. It's like a pledge process all over again because I don't know when we gonna get a chance to have a probate. I don't know.
When you say a probate, for the people who don't know what that means.
That's coming out parties to the world, let everybody know that hey, I'm a member of this uh illustrious organization.
Or the process is done for folks trying to figure out, or the process is done. It's a culmination.
Or the process had just begun. It just depends on who's looking and who's asking. However, it's been a process over here.
Yeah.
It's been a process over here. It's hard because you can't parent him like in normal parenting setting, and everybody's piggyback and getting answers what work, what don't work. So my wife is part of a autism community on I don't know what platform it's on, but she just read the dialogue, read the comments, and similar traits across the board at different time frames. You know, I'm thinking I don't know how this all came about. Everybody got their conspiracy theories. However, he doesn't like get it's hard for him to get his haircut. I have to hold him down. Sometimes his haircut is jacked up. I don't know if it's the clippers. I'm not gonna go buy $500 clippers. The quiet clippers. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if it's the sensation. But kids with autism, their senses are heightened.
Yeah.
Certain things that don't bother us gives them fits. Certain things that give us fit don't bother them.
Yeah.
Langston is a Scorpio, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of into astrology sometimes, and he loves water. I don't care what mood he's in, he can be on 10, and that's falling all over the floor. You let him play in some water, and he will immediately calm down. Water is so tranquil for him. That's
Yeah.
that's our whole. That's our whole. We have to keep that within our pocket because
Yeah.
whenever he's just too irate, sometimes he he gets overstimulated, and
Yeah.
you just gotta let that calm down on his own, and water would do it for us.
Yeah, I like that you said it because I'm encouraging other dads out there, other parents who may see this, right? Everybody have what Reginald just said, which is an ace in the hole, meaning every kid has something that you say this, give it to them, whatever, brings everything down. But that's part of the journey is figuring out what that is for your child. And so try to find that one thing that no matter what, will calm down. Some kids it's a tablet, some kids it's a cookie. It could be whatever. So find that. One thing you talked about your wife being a part of, this other community. That's why Puzzle Dads was created, because we needed this. We need this space to be able to talk about our experience, talk about what we're seeing. And, like I said, I'm definitely appreciative for you to come on and just share your story, right? Because I'm sure there's another dad that's going to watch that. And it's like, okay, I've heard from other people, but this particular story sticks with me. And so I definitely appreciate it. So, last question, what other advice, and you've given a lot of gems, and I hope folks have truly been listening. What are other advice that you would give other dads or parents with autistic children?
Uh, Autism doesn't. Every kid is not affected by autism the same way. So in our situation, certain kids are verbal, nonverbal. Our son he was nonverbal, transitioning to verbal, and you're their biggest advocate at the end of the day. And if your son or daughter is in school and they're in the right programs, get an advocate for the school setting. An advocate, they're free. You can donate to them or whatever. You can arrange that however you want, but get an advocate because they're a little bit more in tune with the school policy, the school laws that change on a frequent and yearly basis. We have art meetings to make sure his needs are being met. So you may not know that as a parent, all the paperwork and the logistics of it, but an advocate will be there to go. It's like a lawyer for you, for your child at that school to make sure schools are providing the necessary needs for your child. But it'll help to get an advocate. Pick your battles as a parent. Pick your battle. This is not a normal battle. So you can't address it in a normal way. You can't address bad behavior like you would normally address bad behavior. And there's obviously a disconnect as far as, when you trying to discipline, because if it's a repetitive action, they keep doing it and they know better, try a different method. Try a different method. If you're fortunate to have a partner, a wife, or a husband, and you're the one who's in the heated, you feel your composure, you feel yourself losing composure, back off and let someone else come in that's new to the game, new to the conversation, just to de-escalate. Because what you think sometimes I'm gonna make them calm down. You'll be there all night. And how far are you willing to go? You can make a situation worse than what it is. Pick your battles. Pick your battles. Like Langston like playing in water, so we'll tell him cut the water off here. He won't have it on continuously long, but hey, if it's going, what's extra 10, 15, $20 on a water bill if it's going to provide us peace, and just and he's at peace. We forget he in the house when he's playing with that water. So like, hey, what's $20 on a water bill? Just have a towel, clean it up. Certain battles are, what every kid likes to play in the water. Well, most kids, but pick your battles.
Yeah.
Pick your battles as a parent, and it's you're their biggest advocate. So keep your composure.
That's good.
That's the main thing I would say. Keep your composure. Keep your composure. Keep your composure. Because sometimes are a little bit more challenging than others, and you got to keep your composure, because if you're modeling, you got to model the behavior that you want them to exhibit. So if you always get irate when some things don't go your way, they gonna model that behavior as well and exhibit that behavior. So you got to model the behavior that you want to see in your child.
That my brother. That is, man. I couldn't have said it any better. That's great advice, and I hope it helps somebody else out there. So, actually, one more question: What would you say? What would you say? And this is this is a conversation. When so people understand when I bring my friends on. These aren't new conversations per se, but these are conversations that can go on for hours, which we're not going to talk for hours, but
Great conversation.
yeah. So in regards to parents who are unsure of testing, right? What would you say to those parents who are unsure? Maybe somebody's watching this and they're just not sure, right? What would you say to them as far as making sure that they're at least getting testing early as opposed to waiting?
Well, step outside that box. This not about you. So, excuse me, I would say it's not about you. It's not about you, and however you feel about it. They're experts in certain fields for a reason, and unless you all of a sudden became a doctor overnight, you got to go trust the experts. So trust the process. There are platforms out there, but we got Langston evaluated a couple times, just to make sure and just to get different of opinions. We got them evaluated through the school, then we got them evaluated outside the school, just to have data on where we at. And the sooner the better, because the sooner you can get them evaluated, and they qualify or they're on the spectrum, the sooner you can start getting resources and get that ball rolling, because it's a work in progress. And just because they're nonverbal at that particular time doesn't mean they won't ever excel to where you want them to be. It's a process, and their brain needs to work and learn that process. So the sooner the better. Like, we should have got Langston evaluated at 2, maybe 3, and the process would have started sooner. And just because they get evaluated, they're diagnosed with autism, they're in SPED classes, and that's not the end all say all. They can get tested every 3, 4 years. And so Langston, I will know confidently that he will test out, because my point was, when they was testing him and it was found out that he can communicate with sign language, I argued the fact that maybe the test that you administer should be inside. You know, if you can communicate with him and he understands the questions, communicate through signs. So they, you know, that's on the board, that's on the table. But we feel that he will test out.
Yeah.
You know, just a matter of him learning, and he loves to learn his letters. You know, he just hesitant, and he's hesitant to enunciate certain letters, alphabets. But he's working on it. His birth project, and when he turned 8, God's will, in November, he'll be a little bit further along with enunciating words and sentences and putting everything together and communicating his needs more effectively. Because, hey, a year ago he wouldn't even say anything, and it weighed heavy on my heart. Like, hey, I ain't never gonna hear my son say "Dad," but now he won't shut up, and I like it, you know, and I like it. But for 7 years he didn't say Dad. I never heard him say Dad at all, or Mom. And now, you know, he knows how to direct and get our attention. He knows how to enunciate and say, you know, he's talking. So the game's changing, and the evaluation is gonna have to change. Everything has to change now because he's verbalizing his needs.
Yeah. Well, my brother, I appreciate you. I thank you for coming on, man. And I hope, you know, this, just hearing you is helpful to me, to encourage me as well. And just a reminder of, like I said, the title of this is, you know, a life's journey, you know what I mean? And so a never ending journey. But I appreciate you for coming on and just being willing to kind of share yourself and open up yourself for this party. Any other parting words you want to give before we close out here?
Think outside this box. Like, you got to attack this whole process differently, and be flexible and be adaptable. You know, it's a work in progress, and you want to see progress. Even if it's a little progress, it's still progress. You know, so any progress is good progress. You watch for the trigger points. A lot of tantrums can be avoided just by watching the trigger points, being more observant. Don't let your guards down. We always have to keep our eyes peeled with Langston, because certain things, certain fears are removed. And so we have to be there to remind him, hey, you can't just walk out in the street and run out in the street, because, you know, you might not be able to run back. You know, he doesn't feel that fear. He doesn't see that danger. So that's why we always have to have our eyes peeled when we outside. On the inside of the house, he knows his home. But when we outside, we have to be mindful of that, you know.
Yeah.
That's just keep your eyes peeled and watch out for the trigger points. And a lot of those tantrums can be de-escalated or avoided if at all.
Yeah. Well, we're going to end it on that. And if you want to take a quote from what Reginald just said, any progress is still progress. Thank you all for joining the Puzzle Dads podcast, watching this amazing episode. Again, if you want to reach out to us, send us an email, puzzledads@gmail.com. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, follow us on YouTube, hit the subscribe and like button so that you can catch every single episode. And then also Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Remember, Puzzle Dads, we're cracking the code. We're cracking the code of autism, one piece at a time. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to the Puzzle Dads podcast with me as your host, Jamar Whitehurst. For more information on autism, check out autismspeaks.org, along with other resources listed on our social media pages. Don't forget to leave a review and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite streaming platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. Remember, Puzzle Dads, to keep cracking that code, because God has a plan for each of us and our children. Have a blessed day.